I think the hardest thing for us to do is one of the most as necessary things for us to do is to learn to say no sometimes. And that's a hard thing for me because I want to do everything for everybody. But I got to know my own limitations, and I got to know my own strengths. And I have learned that over the years that if I'll focus more of my attention, more of my time on building my strengths, then I'm able to take on more. Hey guys, welcome back to Kingdom Connections. This is Alan here with Brother Tyler Bowles. How you doing, brother?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm awesome, man. Awesome. Blessed and highly favored, as they say.
Preach.
That's right. Hey guys, just real quickly, just want to reiterate, please share, like, comment, let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. If you have something on your mind, feel free to share it. Maybe we'll use it and talk about it. So we want you to be involved with this. So get involved, please, and share it with somebody if you like it. So Brother Tyler, what's on your mind today?
Well, today, topic of conversation is something that is extremely relevant because everybody deals with it at some point. You may be dealing with it now. Talking about the topic of burnout. We're talking about physically, mentally, emotionally, you spiritually, you experience it all in some way, shape, or fashion at some point in your life. And not just talking about it, but how do you get past it? And I'll give you just an example for me. For those of you who know me, and hopefully you've been listening to this podcast, hopefully you've been a consistent part of the fam here at Kingdom Connections, and you've heard my life story since the first episode, talking about my experience with music and as a worship leader. Just a personal example for me, and this is something that if you are a musician, particularly talking about playing keys, you may disagree with me here, and it is what it is. So I always teach people, because there's a debate going on about whether or not you need to learn all 12 keys, and why learn all 12 keys when you got a keyboard, it's electronic, most of them have transpose buttons, what's the point? I agree with that to an extent.
Right. Because
when I was learning, it was right as keyboards were starting to develop the transpose button. That wasn't always a thing.
Yeah.
I will tell you right now, I got burned out very quickly because there are 12 keys.
Right.
And music theory is a very large, very vast thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I tried to learn it in all 12 keys, I quit multiple times.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a lot of ways, it stalled my progress.
Right.
So here's how I teach people. And not only does this help with burnout as far as getting through it, but I think a lot of ways it's also preventive.
Right.
Learn in, this is what I tell people, learn in 2 or 3 keys at first.
Mm-hmm.
The transpose button's there. However, once you get comfortable with those 2 to 3 keys, branch out and learn another one. And you'll get to the point where you can play in all 12 keys. Like, I can play in all 12 keys, but there are still some keys that I'm not as comfortable in, but I'm working on it.
Right.
And flip this around into, okay, like maybe you're not a musician. How does this translate to me? You can get burnt out because you're putting your hand in so many fires. No pun intended, talking about burnout, but it gets overwhelming, and you're just like, you throw your hands up and you're like, forget it, I'm done. Mm-hmm. And I applaud people who, and this is just talking about kind of in the church arena, but it can also apply to your career, trying to put too much on you. I applaud you for wanting to better yourself and to improve and to grow, but you can also go about it in an unhealthy way,
right? And
you burn yourself out very quickly.
Right.
Best way to combat that, at least for me, talking about in a physical sense now, I mean, obviously prayer and that kind of thing as far as on the spiritual end, but as far as on the physical end for me, the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If you try to eat the whole thing at once, it ain't gonna work.
Right.
You might be able to get half of it down if you got a big enough appetite, but you're not gonna get the whole thing down.
We're talking about fried or grilled. That makes a difference.
Man, I don't know. I don't know if I'd eat an elephant, but
Say it
fried's
like
always
chicken,
better than
maybe.
grilled. Fried's always better than grilled, though.
That's right.
I will die on that mountain.
Mm.
That's probably also why I'm in the shape that I'm in. But anyways, yeah, you just want to make sure that you're not tackling too much. You're not taking on too much,
There you go.
because you can burn out very quickly.
There you go.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the hardest thing for us to do is one of the most as necessary things for us to do is to learn to say no sometimes. And that's a hard thing for me because I want to do everything for everybody. But I got to know my own limitations, and I got to know my own strengths. And I have learned that over the years that if I'll focus more of my attention, more of my time on building my strengths, then I'm able to take on more. But if I'm just, giving this 10%, and nothing 100%, I don't see the results that I want. Most of the time I get frustrated and quit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's playing an instrument or whether it's, just everyday life at work, trying to work my way up or do whatever that is, whatever your goal is, wherever you're at, there's steps you got to take, but at the same time, you got to focus on your strengths. There's some jobs I know in this world that it's just not my cup of tea. I could spend 20 years on that job, but it's not for me. It's not my strong thing. It's not what I do. And so I think we can get ourselves spread so thin that we never really see the results that we're looking for. Right? So,
yeah. And I think to even go a step further, I think you not only miss the results that you're looking for, but you can also come short of what your potential is in other areas because you're spreading yourself so thin.
Right.
It's the saying, jack of all trades, but master of none. I don't like that.
No.
I mean, I think that if you get to the point where you're spreading yourself so thin, you're selling yourself short in other areas where you could be, the best that you possibly could be.
Right.
But your mental space is being taken up with all these other things, and you're getting fatigued,
right?
And you lose the motivation, you lose the zeal that you had, and it ends up it's never a good combination to go, I'm going to put myself in 1,000 different things. It never works. Find one or two things that you're good at, that you're going to excel at. Start there,
right? Because
the good thing is, and the human brain is a wonderful thing. Once you get to a point where you're so good at something, it becomes second nature, and it becomes muscle memory to a degree. Yeah. Then you can branch off and do other things.
Right.
But focus on that one thing first, whatever that one thing is for you. If you're at your job and you want to get to a certain position, find one or two things that you can improve on to get to that position.
Right.
If you're starting out at the lower level and you want to be a CEO, don't put yourself in 1,000 different classes and trying to do all these different things to get yourself to a CEO level. Find out what a CEO does. Start with two things. Two things. Get that under wraps.
Right.
And you will find that it almost like at a leadership perspective, you will begin to gravitate naturally.
Right.
You get good.
It's all right.
You become proficient. You become proficient in these two areas, and naturally you will gravitate towards the next thing.
Wow.
Because you've graduated from this area, and just naturally you're like, okay, I'm ready for this.
Right.
And then if you put yourself in 15 different things, you're never going to feel like you're ready for anything else.
Right.
So in a church setting, I understand that you may want to be involved, and we love people that want to get involved and to grow the body. But if you're volunteering for every possible thing that you can volunteer for, I promise you burnout is inevitable.
Right.
Obviously, be a sponge. Be a willing vessel. I'm not telling you not to do that.
Right.
However, I'm going to be honest with you. Would if the pastor come to me and said, "Hey, Brother Tyler, we're short in the children's church department. You think you could help us out?" Yeah, I could. Would I be good at it? Probably not. Would I be willing to do it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That you can still have a servant's heart and still know what it is that you want to do. Be willing to do the other things if you're asked.
Right.
That's part of being a willing vessel. But The beautiful thing about what makes us human and what makes us different is the fact that we're different.
Right.
And God has designed us that way. He's given us natural proficiencies in areas that other people may not have.
Right.
Just like not everybody can be a musician. Not everybody can be a preacher. Not everybody can be a singer. Not everybody can be a teacher. My goodness, if you put me in charge of children's church,
Right.
oh my gosh, they're going to come out of children's church and be like, guess what Tyler taught us today? And I'm going to be getting some phone calls. Not that I'm going to be teaching anything like off the cuff or anything, but I'm not going to be as good at it as somebody who like, that's almost what they're born to do.
Right.
They almost have like that nurturing side to them.
Right.
And I may be nurturing to a degree, but I'm not going to be as proficient as somebody who like that's what they love to do. They love to teach children. They love to be able to watch them grow and to do mighty things in the kingdom. And I love seeing it. Mm-hmm. But as far as the work side of it, I couldn't tell you the first thing about what to do.
Right.
Just because that's not my expertise.
Right.
Everybody's got a different thing. And if I try to force myself to go over there and to do that,
right.
Again, I'll do it until somebody else can come in that knows more than I and knows better than I.
Right.
And I'll do it to the best of my ability. But if I go to force myself just for the sakes of going to force myself, I'm gonna burn out.
Right.
It's inevitable. It will happen. It's not an if, it's a when.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and you know, and just all transparency, I mean, I've been there in ministry. I've been there in home life. I've been there in work. You know, you name it. You know, I've done it, and 99.9% of it was my fault. I mean, it. I just say that because I don't want to say 100%, but truthfully, it was. I was spreading myself so thin that I wasn't. Was I really being beneficial? You know what I mean? Is it really fair? Like you were talking about children's church. Is it really fair to the kids if I'm only giving them 10% of me? Or would it be better for them to get somebody who is focused on that? And that is their heart, that is their job, and that is their desire to give them everything they got. Absolutely, you would want that. I'd want that in even a school teacher, right? Yep. I want somebody that wants to be there. I don't want somebody who just wants a paycheck. I want somebody that's got some compassion about what they're doing. And so I think that the hardest thing I had to learn was to say no, because I was yes to everything. And it's not that I don't have a servant's heart. It's just that in the end, I was doing more harm than good, really, because I wasn't given everything that I had. And it become more like a chore. Man, people can see that all over you.
Oh, yeah.
When you come in and don't want to be there, right? They can see that all over you. And again, I'm not saying that you won't challenge yourself. And sometimes you have to step out of what you're comfortable doing to find, and God reveals things that you didn't even know was in you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that, again, if we spread ourselves too thin, we're only doing harm to them and to us, really. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I heard a saying one time. I'm going to get your take on it.
Okay.
But I heard somebody say that if you spent 15 minutes a day, because we're talking about focus. So if you spent 15 minutes a day doing one thing every day for a year, couple years maybe, that most of the time that's going to put you in the top 10% in the world in that area. What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly could see that, because not just in the sense of, I can see it in this way because we have an issue, especially today, with consistency. Okay, if I sit down and practice on the keys for 2 hours today and then I don't touch it for 2 weeks, you're going to surpass me. If you do the same thing, but you do 15 minutes a day, you're going to surpass me in practice time 2 weeks from now.
Right. Let me get my toes out from under the table. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
But, yeah, I mean, I could totally see that. Yeah. And 15 minutes a day seems like a small task. Right. But you take 15 minutes a day, do it for 2 years, that's a lot of time.
It is.
That's a lot of time.
Absolutely.
You're looking at, just in 10 days, you're looking at over 2 hours of doing whatever it is that you were doing.
Right.
You know, so yeah, I can totally understand that, and I could totally see that. Um, and something that I've always tried to think about as far as like trying to put your hands in too many fires. When you do that, it's not fair to the people that you're trying to give service to.
Right.
Because they deserve better than somebody who's doing something out of obligation or because they're only given 10%.
Right.
Just like you had said. So in a lot of ways, and this is going to sound real mean, and I don't mean it to. I say it because I love you, and I want you to be the best that you can be, and this goes across the board. It's tough love, as my dad used to call it. If you're doing that, in a lot of ways, it's selfish,
right?
Because you were doing it to benefit you, because you want to do all these different things, and it's great and it's commendable. But you're doing a disservice to everybody else.
Right.
And so not only is it a disservice, but I'm telling you, I say it because I've done it. Right. Burnout will happen. And then what should have happened originally is what's going to end up happening in the end anyways.
Right.
Which is it's eventually you're going to burn out, you're going to fizzle out. And if we're talking about like in a church setting, you're going to bow out. And then somebody who originally had the heart for it to begin with will now be able to transition into that spot.
Right.
Which is how it should have been to begin with.
Right.
I applaud wanting to get your hands dirty and trying to do things, and it's wonderful.
Right.
But pick one thing.
Right.
Pick two things. Because you'll also learn about yourself in that process.
Right.
You know, you always hear like, you know, nobody knows you better than you. I don't know if I believe that.
Right.
Because people will see things in you that you don't see in you.
True.
And you will live this entire life figuring out things about yourself.
Right.
Why? I mean, because if you think about it, the word trigger has been a thing the last few years.
Right.
What triggers you? Why does it trigger? You don't know until something happens to cause a response.
Right.
You don't know that about yourself.
Right.
You just know that it happens. You're going to spend your entire life learning about yourself.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to be able to learn about yourself if you're spreading yourself so thin. It's like trying to diagnose a problem when you've got 15 things going on.
Right.
It's impossible.
Right.
But if you got one or two things where you're just like, it's not for me. Now you can make a decision and go, okay, what do I need to do now?
Right.
But if you've got yourself in 15 areas and you're just bogged down and you're not enjoying what you're doing anymore, can I tell you, if I'm in 15 things, can I tell you what it is I'm not enjoying? No.
Right.
Because you're going to learn about yourself if you delegate how you should, as far as picking things that you feel like you want to do, things that you should do, things that you feel like you're called to do in a spiritual setting. Stick to what you're called to do.
Right.
Leave everything else to everybody else. It's wonderful to want to learn, and that's okay. Learn.
Absolutely.
But also know your place. Does that make sense? And I know that sounds mean, but it's very real.
No, absolutely. No, it makes perfect sense. And again, when we're saying focus, focus on your strengths that you have now and use that to grow. In other words, put the first step on the stairway. Focus on getting it secure, getting it strong, so that you have a platform to stand on before you go to the next step. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because if you halfway do every step, that's a pretty dangerous climb every day that you have to go through. So
at some point you're gonna slip.
Right. So focus on that and just go from there. And get don't be afraid to ask for help. I don't know if everybody knows it or not. I'm just gonna throw it in there. But just a few years ago, I learned to play the bass at the church. I dabbled with the guitar, never gave it 100%. But and you were getting on my toes even what ago. And when I heard that saying 15 minutes, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around that, it seems like everything is in the way. That's a lot of time, right? So, but you taught me what I know on the bass, and I appreciate that for sure. And but it was in a way that that I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it, and I think that if it got to the point I didn't, then I'd have to do some praying, some soul searching, because I want to be able to. It's a joyful thing to serve the Lord. Now that does not mean people so. That's a whole nother episode, but people so miscued that word. It's not about having a smile on my face every time and I'm always humming a song and whistling while I work kind of thing. There's going to be days that I have to push myself and I have to make myself. And but the joy is just a state of, it's my heart. It's the state of my mind. It's the state, you know what I mean, that I'm serving Him in what I do. And that's whether it's work, play, at home, wherever it's at. So, but yeah, I guess that's my biggest thing. And that's, as guys, I can speak as guys that we don't like to ask for help.
Yeah.
So, but I think that help, that hinders us from doing what all that we can.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, even when I taught you, I did it with the intention of trying not to overwhelm you.
Right.
So I remember, like, when you had first started, I didn't like, this is probably going to be controversial in how I taught you, but it's fine. It worked out.
Very patient with me, by the way.
I think your first kind of like dive into music theory, at least with me, we talked about like the number system, the differences between sharps and flats, and that was it. We didn't talk much about like, and even now, I mean, but really bass, it's not like that big of a thing to have to learn, but we didn't talk about like tritones and like, diatonic movements and chromatic movements. I mean, we talked a little bit about chromatic stuff now, just because like now we're delving into gospel, right? So at first it was contemporary Christian music, because it's very, and not to knock on it, but it's almost like cookie cutter in the way that it goes. There's not a whole lot of like crazy movements that like make you go, whoa, what was that? It was easy to learn. It was beneficial for what we were trying to do. You enjoyed it. Right. And then as you got that under your belt, it's like, okay, you've conquered this. Now let's learn this.
Right. Absolutely.
And I didn't make you necessarily learn like note names per se. I did later on. Right. But at first it was, hey, like this is the shape for this scale. Now you can move it up and down the neck. Right. Just figure out what the root for each scale movement is and know you're in the right key. Right. The rest of that will come later. Right. And so now it's to the point like if I go to a song that you've never played before, I can just tell you what key we're in, throw numbers up at you, and you're fine. Right. But it didn't start that way. No. And I did it like that on purpose, because I've also, like I said, like right at the beginning, I've been on that other side where I've overwhelmed myself and quit multiple times. Right. So, just the proof is in the pudding. It's take one or two things and grow and run with it. So real quick, let's take a commercial break. We'll see you guys in about 60 seconds. Stay tuned. Hey there. Did you know you could give the House of Hope Worship Center via text message? Give me 1 second. Let me tell you how. All you have to do is text the number 844-311-2754. Repeating 844-311-2754. Text the word give and set up your account. Once the account has been set up, you can do a one-time donation, you can set up a recurring monthly donation, or you can give to a ministry of your choice. All you have to do is specify by texting the word options. After the account has been set up, the hassle's already done. At this point moving forward, all you have to do is text the word give with the amount that you wish to give, and the rest of it's done for you. Thank you for your giving. It is greatly appreciated, and God bless.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are discussing burnout, and we're not talking about your car in the local Food Line parking lot or whatever, right? So
don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. We're not promoting it. No, we're talking about spiritual, physical, just emotional burnout. maybe taking on too much one time, spreading yourself too thin is one of the ways some people put it. But so in this last little bit here, we kind of want to focus on, okay, so what can I do? What's some options? What do you think, Brother Tyler?
As far as talking from a place like, okay, we've acknowledged the fact we're burnout.
Right.
How do we get out of it? And sometimes I'm just going to be honest. I still experience it from time to time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, it's inevitable because everybody goes through it, and sometimes there's just not a rhyme or reason.
Right.
I will tell you, in a corporate setting, take those vacation days. Because I promise you, that company that you work for is going to run just fine when you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what's going to happen if you burn out and then you quit.
Right.
They just going to find somebody to replace you.
Right.
Don't neglect the fact, like, if they give you PTO, take it off.
Yeah.
They give it to you for a reason.
Right.
Don't let them and if they try to bully you to make you not take it, you probably need to do some reevaluating on where you work anyways.
Mm-hmm.
In a church setting, if you work in a church, take a sabbatical. It's a thing. It happens. Sometimes you just need a break. I'm not saying get out of church.
No.
I'm not saying that at all.
Mm-mm.
But sometimes you can serve and serve and serve to the point where your well runs dry. It happens.
Right.
Nothing wrong with taking a sabbatical.
Absolutely.
When you feel like you're in a place where you feel like okay, I'm burnt out and I just don't have the zeal and the desire to do this no more.
Mm-hmm.
Something has to change somewhere.
Right.
And then there are other times where sometimes you just got to push through it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes vacation's not feasible. Sometimes a sabbatical's not feasible. Pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
You can never go wrong with that.
No.
The Bible says he'll give you the desires of your heart if you delight in him.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing things to please him, you are delighting yourself in him. Right. Sometimes you just need rest. Sometimes you just need restoration. You need strength. You need refreshing.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to push through that thing and God will supernaturally give you the zeal and the desire again.
Right.
I've been here at House of Hope. Goodness, how long have I been here now? Like 7 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I've experienced it a handful of times. Yeah. Sometimes I just come in here and it's just keeping your head down and driving the plow.
Right.
And at some point, something's going to break. Breakthrough happens.
Mm-hmm.
And you pray for breakthrough. And something else I would encourage you to do too is put yourself in an environment for breakthrough and change to come.
Right.
So if that means that if you find a church somewhere that's having a revival or a conference and you can go and it's not like pulling you away from your duties where you're at, go.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I've went to church services just for the sake of going to church, because up here on the stage, I pour out every week.
Right.
I don't get to, yes, I listen to preaching, but even then, like, when I'm listening as somebody is preaching, I'm constantly having to think like, okay, what am I going to do for altar call? And you're constantly just being drained.
Right.
Sometimes I like to just go to church just to be in the building, be with people, get to worship, not have to, I could take my thinking cap off and just enjoy.
Right.
And just simply having a time of refreshing that way.
Right.
What would you say? What are some tips that you would give?
Well, rest absolutely is at the top of the list. I was thinking when you said that, I mean, even in the beginning, God took a rest. It's not because God got tired. He was showing us how to work this thing, right? He was showing us, giving us an example or a format, if you will. And so, yeah, absolutely take those moments of rest. You might say, well, I don't have that opportunity. All this stuff is dependent on me. I'm telling you, find some others that you can ask for help. Don't be afraid to delegate. Not to go too deep, but the story with Moses, he was trying to rule all these people all by himself, and his father-in-law finally said, "What are you doing? You're not benefiting you or the people." Said you need to delegate some people, and you do your strong suit, which is take on the more difficult stuff. Let these guys deal with the day-to-day stuff. And so, don't be afraid to do that. So rest is one for sure. And two is just renew yourself in the Word. in prayer. Renew yourself with your company. And what I mean by that is, you know that you have some people in your life that just seem to boost you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so make sure you make a point to spend a little time with them each week if you need to, every day if you need to, whatever it is, just to give you that little boost that helps you go on. But more than anything, spend time with Him.
Yeah.
God will renew our minds. He gives us strength. I cannot do anything without Him. Anything without Him. So take those moments of rest, and he will renew you, and He will strengthen you. And again, just get some good people around you.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep. Bible says, "Come all ye that are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest."
Give you rest, right?
Yep. You're absolutely right.
So if you burn out, don't throw in the towel. Just take a moment and reflect, and just first and foremost, remember why you're doing what you're doing, and evaluate. Make sure you're putting your resources in the right spot, and get some rest, and get some people around you that can help you.
Yep. So good. Well, I think that is a great note to end on. So, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. Again, please give us some feedback.
Yes.
We're appreciative. We watch the viewership counter. We look and see how long people are tuning in. If there is anything that we can do to improve this thing, let us know. And obviously, we want to do this to be relevant to you. If there are some things that you're struggling with, if there are some things that you would like some insight on, maybe a different perspective, let us know, and it can be a topic of conversation.
Right.
So, again, above all, go to Him in prayer. Cast all your cares upon Him because He cares for you.
Right.
He will give you the rest that you need.
Right.
Yeah, so good. So good. So we love you guys. We appreciate you.
Love y'all.
God bless. We'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, real quick before I let you go, this is Worship Pastor Tyler Bowles, and I'm also one of the podcast hosts here. I just want to take a minute to invite you to our services if you're in the Lexington, North Carolina area and you don't already have a home church. We have services on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We have programs in place for all ages, so please bring your family, tell your neighbors, tell your friends, have them bring their kids. We would love to get to meet you and connect with all of you and partner with you and believe with you for the things that you are believing God for. Because something very powerful happens whenever we gather together in one mind with one accord, because the Bible says then a suddenly happens. And I just want to agree with you and bind together with you for the suddenly moments, for those breakthroughs you may need. So if you were in the Lexington, North Carolina area and you don't already have a home church, the address is 117 Harris Road, Lexington, North Carolina, 27292. Again, that is 117 Harris Road, Lexington, North Carolina, 27292. We would love to see you. We would love to see your family. We would love to get to know you. We love you. We appreciate you. We are praying for you. God bless.